Michael Chen had 3 rules about his apartment: no smoking, no drama, and absolutely no unexpected guests after 9 p.m. At 9:47 on a Thursday night, someone was knocking on his door. He paused the documentary he'd been half-watching, something about deep-sea creatures that his mind had already forgotten, and listened. 3 knocks. Soft, almost apologetic, but insistent enough that he couldn't pretend he hadn't heard them. His phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text from his boy Marcus. "You still coming through Saturday? Bring that camera." Michael typed back a quick confirmation, then looked toward the door again. The knocking had stopped, but he could sense someone still standing there. Could feel the weight of their presence through the door like a change in air pressure. He wasn't expecting anyone. His sister lived in Oakland. Marcus was obviously home texting him, and his on-again, off-again situation with Keisha was currently very off. Had been for 3 weeks now, though neither of them had officially called it. They were in that limbo stage where you stopped replying to texts promptly and started every conversation with "we need to talk," but never actually talked. The knock came again, more urgent this time. Michael pushed himself off the couch, running a hand over his head. He'd been meaning to get a haircut for a week now. His reflection caught in the darkened TV screen showed him what he already knew. He looked exactly like a man who'd spent the entire evening in basketball shorts and an old Howard University t-shirt, watching documentaries he wasn't paying attention to. Through the peephole, he saw her. The woman from next door. The one who'd moved in maybe 6 months ago, the one he'd seen in passing maybe a dozen times. Always put together, always on her phone, always seeming like she had somewhere more important to be. He caught her name once during a brief elevator conversation. Emily, or Emma, something like that. She'd been wearing designer sunglasses indoors and hadn't looked up from her phone screen once during the entire ride to the lobby. Now she stood in the hallway, shifting her weight from foot to foot, arms wrapped around herself despite the warmth of the building. She wore jeans and an oversized sweater that looked expensive in that deliberately casual way. Her hair, usually styled to perfection in the carefully tousled waves he'd seen on his Explore page, hung loose around her face. No makeup that he could see. She looked younger like this. Vulnerable. She looked up at the peephole as if she could feel him watching, and Michael stepped back reflexively. He opened the door, leaving the chain on. "Yeah. Hi." Her voice was softer than he remembered. She had an accent he couldn't quite place, something that lilted at the end of her words. "I'm so sorry to bother you. I'm Emily. From next door." "Yeah, I remember." He did, vaguely. The elevator. The time she'd received a package delivery, while he was checking his mail and hadn't said thank you when he'd held the door. Small moments that added up to an impression. Someone who existed in her own world, separate from everyone else in the building. This is going to sound really weird. She laughed, but it came out shaky. Her eyes darted past him into the apartment, then back to his face. "But do you think I could stay the night? Just tonight?" Michael's hand tightened on the doorframe. He'd lived in LA for 5 years now, long enough to know that nobody asked normal favors at 9:47 p.m. on a Thursday. Long enough to recognize the setup to something he didn't want to be part of. "You want to stay tonight?" he repeated, not quite a question. "Yes. Just one night." The words tumbled out faster now, like she'd been holding them in. "My boyfriend locked me out." Well, ex-boyfriend. It's complicated. There it is, Michael thought. The drama he'd specifically put on his list of things to avoid. "Listen," he started, already formulating the polite refusal. He'd learned this script in college, perfected it over years of being the friend everyone called when they needed something. "Sorry, man, I would, but I don't really. I know how this sounds," she interrupted, taking a half-step closer. The motion sensor light in the hallway flickered, casting moving shadows across her face. "Trust me, I know. But I don't have anywhere else to go right now, and I've seen you around. You seem like a good person. You're always helping people with their groceries and stuff." Was he? Michael couldn't remember the last time he'd helped anyone with groceries, but maybe he had. Maybe that was the version of himself he presented to the world. Helpful, accommodating, the guy who held doors and made small talk in elevators even when the other person was glued to their phone. "Why'd he lock you out?" The question came out before he could stop it, and he knew immediately it was a mistake. Asking for details meant engagement. Engagement meant he was already halfway to saying yes. Emily's expression shifted, something hardening beneath the vulnerability. He cheated on me, and then I cheated on him. Okay. Michael wasn't sure what response she expected. I know what you're thinking, she continued, her voice taking on an edge. But it's different. Men, especially black men. She paused, her eyes meeting his. They don't really cheat, you know? The opportunity presents itself, and they take it. There's no emotion attached. But when I did it, she shook her head. I went looking for it. I made a choice. That's what he can't forgive. Michael blinked. The mental gymnastics required to make that argument work were impressive, and the casual racism of the stereotype made him want to close the door immediately. But something in her delivery made him pause. She believed what she was saying. Or at least, she believed he would believe it. Look, she said, softer now. I know this is weird. I'm just asking for one night. I'll be out of your way. I can sleep on the couch. I won't touch anything. Please. Every instinct Michael had developed over 32 years of life screamed at him to say no. He didn't know this woman. Her logic was backwards. Her situation was messy, and nothing about this made sense. You didn't get locked out of your own place over a cheating situation. You called a locksmith. You called a friend. You went to a hotel. You didn't knock on the door of a neighbor you barely knew at almost 10 o'clock at night. But she was looking at him with those wide eyes, and he could see the calculation behind them, and somehow that made it worse. Because if he said no now, he'd be the guy who turned away a woman who claimed she had nowhere to go. Never mind that she probably had a dozen options. Never mind that everything about this felt like a scene from a movie he'd already seen the ending to. I don't even know you, he said, trying one more time. I could be a serial killer or something. Emily's laugh was more genuine this time. I've seen you. You're always smiling, talking to people in the building. You don't seem scary. This isn't a party house, he said, and immediately regretted it. Why was he negotiating? Why wasn't he just saying no? I know it's not. I'm not trying to party. I just need a place to crash for a few hours. You don't even know if I have a girlfriend or something. Do you? The question came quick, pointed. No. The truth slipped out before he could think better of it. It wasn't technically a lie. Keisha wasn't his girlfriend. Not officially, not anymore. They were taking a break. They were figuring things out. They were absolutely not in a place where Emily being in his apartment would be something he could explain. His phone buzzed again. He ignored it. So is it okay? Emily asked. Just for tonight. Michael heard his mother's voice in his head, the same lecture she'd given him since childhood. You're too nice, Michael. People will take advantage of that. His sister had said the same thing when he'd let his college roommate borrow $300 that never got paid back. Marcus said it every time Michael picked up the tab because someone else had forgotten their wallet. But what was he supposed to do? Turn her away when she claimed she had nowhere else to go? The moment stretched. Emily watched him with an expression that was carefully neutral, but he could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers gripped the strap of the small bag she carried, waiting for his answer. Hold on, he said, and she lit up like he'd already said yes. Before he could clarify, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, Keisha. Of course. The universe had a sense of humor. Real quick, he said to Emily, then answered. Hey yourself. Keisha's voice was cool, professional, the tone she used when she was calling to confirm dinner plans or tell him she'd be late. The tone that meant whatever they'd had was definitely past tense. I just wanted to let you know I'll be by this weekend to get my stuff. Saturday afternoon work for you? Michael's eyes met Emily's through the crack in the door. She'd taken a step back, trying to give him privacy, but the hallway wasn't that wide. She could definitely hear. Saturday, he repeated. Yeah, that's fine. But listen, I can't really talk right now. That's okay. I just wanted to give you a heads up. We can talk when I come by. Yeah. Okay. Saturday. Bye, Michael. The line went dead before he could respond. He stared at his phone for a second, processing. So that was it. 3 years of on and off, and it ended with a courtesy call about picking up belongings. No fight, no tears, just administrative efficiency. Emily was watching him when he looked up, and there was something knowing in her expression that irritated him more than it should have. Sorry about that, he said, though he wasn't sure why he was apologizing. "Everything okay?" she asked, and it didn't sound like she actually cared about the answer. Michael looked at her, really looked at her this time. Saw the carefully casual stance, the perfectly distressed sweater, the practiced vulnerability in her eyes. Saw someone who knew exactly what she was doing and was betting on him being too polite to call it out. He should say no. He should absolutely say no. "Just for tonight, right?" The words came out before his better judgment could stop them. "Just for tonight. I promise. I'll be out of your way in the morning." He closed the door, unhooked the chain, and opened it wider. "Come on in." "Thank you so much." Emily slipped past him, bringing with her the scent of expensive perfume and something else. Cigarettes, maybe, though he couldn't be sure. "I really appreciate this." Michael closed the door behind her and wondered what exactly he just agreed to. Emily stood in the center of his living room, taking it all in with eyes that moved too quickly, cataloging too much. The documentary was still paused on the TV, a giant squid frozen mid-swim. His empty dinner plate sat on the coffee table next to his laptop, his camera bag slumped on the floor beside the couch. "So what's your plan?" he asked, trying to establish some kind of boundary now that she was already inside. "I mean, are you going to, call your boyfriend and work it out tomorrow, or—" "Ex-boyfriend," she corrected, setting her bag down on the arm of his couch without asking. "And no, we're done. I just need to figure out my next move." "Right." Michael moved to the kitchen, suddenly needing distance. "Do you want some water or something?" "I'm okay, thanks." She was looking at his camera now, the Nikon D850 he'd saved 6 months for. "You're a photographer?" "Videographer. I do commercial work mostly. Some documentaries when I can afford to." "That's cool." She said it the way people said things were cool when they were just filling silence. "You any good?" The question surprised him into a laugh. "I'd like to think so. Maybe you could shoot some content for me sometime." She pulled out her phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned the screen toward him. Her Instagram profile, 300,000 followers. The photos were all carefully curated, golden hour lighting, designer outfits, aspirational captions about manifestation and living your best life. 300,000 followers, he said, genuinely impressed despite himself. "Yeah." She shrugged like it wasn't a big deal, but he could see the pride underneath. "I've been building my brand for a while now. It's steady work once you get there." Michael thought about the apartment rejection she'd mentioned, the fact that she needed a place to stay, the calculation behind asking a stranger for help. None of it quite added up to 300,000 followers and steady work. But it wasn't his business. One night, she'd said. One night, and she'd be gone in the morning. "So listen," he said, returning to the living room. "The couch pulls out. There's blankets in the closet by the bathroom. I've got to work tomorrow morning, so I'll probably be up early. Of course, I don't want to be any trouble. And just so we're clear, this is just for tonight. Tomorrow you'll need to figure something else out." "Absolutely. I completely understand." She smiled at him, grateful and harmless, and Michael felt the knot in his chest loosen slightly. Maybe it would be fine. Maybe he was overthinking it. One night of helping someone out didn't have to turn into drama. "Do you mind if I use your bathroom?" she asked. "I'd like to freshen up a bit." "Yeah, sure. It's down the hall, second door." She picked up her bag and headed in that direction, leaving Michael alone in his living room with the paused documentary and the growing certainty that he'd just made a mistake. His phone buzzed. "Marcus, yo, you good?" "You went quiet." Michael typed back, "All good. Got an unexpected situation. I'll explain later." Situation better not be Keisha. "It's not Keisha." "Then who?" Michael looked toward the hallway, where he could hear the water running in the bathroom. Neighbor needed a place to crash. Long story. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, bruh. Yeah, Michael thought. Bruh indeed. He began pulling out the couch, finding sheets, playing host in his own home to someone he didn't know and wasn't sure he trusted. Outside, LA hummed with its usual Thursday night energy, sirens in the distance, someone's music bleeding through the walls, the eternal sound of traffic on the boulevard 2 blocks over. Inside apartment 4C, Michael made up a bed for a stranger and told himself it was just one night. Just one night, and then everything would go back to normal. He had no idea how wrong he was. Emily emerged from the bathroom 20 minutes later, looking like a different person. She'd washed her face, reapplied minimal makeup, just enough to look naturally beautiful, Michael noted, and somehow transformed the oversized sweater into something that looked deliberately styled rather than thrown on in a hurry. Her hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail, a few strategic strands framing her face. She looked comfortable, like she belonged there. That was the thing that unsettled him most. "Feel better?" he asked from the kitchen, where he'd been reorganizing the same 3 items in his refrigerator for the past 5 minutes, trying to look busy. "Much better, thank you." She smiled, leaning against the doorframe in a way that seemed too casual, too practiced. "I'm sorry again for just showing up like this. I know it's weird. It's fine." It wasn't fine, but what else was he supposed to say? She was already here, the couch was already made up, and he'd already committed to this particular bad decision. Might as well see it through. Emily moved to the living room window, looking out at the city lights stretched below them. They were on the 4th floor, high enough to see past the building across the street, low enough that the view wasn't impressive. Just LA at night, the same mix of beauty and grit it always was. "I love the city," she said softly, and for a moment she sounded genuine. "Even when it's kicking my ass." Michael closed the refrigerator, grabbed 2 bottles of water, just in case, and joined her in the living room. He handed her one. "How long have you been here?" "Almost 2 years." She accepted the water but didn't open it. "Came from Atlanta. Needed a fresh start, you know. Thought LA would be different." "Is it?" She laughed, sharp and short. "Different problems, same bullshit, just with better weather." There was something real in that response, something that felt less calculated than everything else she'd said so far. Michael found himself curious despite his reservations. "So what's the plan?" he asked, settling into the armchair across from where she stood. Maintaining distance felt important. "I mean long-term. You're clearly not going back to your boyfriend." Ex-boyfriend. Ex-boyfriend. "And you said he locked you out of your place." "His place," Emily corrected, turning from the window. "I was staying with him. My name wasn't on the lease or anything. Stupid, I know. I thought we were in a different place." "That's tough." And it was actually. Michael knew people who'd been in similar situations, girlfriends who'd given up their apartments to move in with boyfriends, only to have the relationship implode and find themselves homeless overnight. One of his sister's friends had ended up on her couch for 3 months after something similar. But something about Emily's story still didn't quite track. The timeline, maybe. Or the way she told it. Practiced, like she'd explained this before. "So where's all your stuff?" he asked. Emily's expression flickered, just for a second. "Storage unit. I moved most of it out last week, when things started getting bad. I'm not stupid. I saw this coming. Smart. Though if she'd seen it coming, she could have arranged somewhere else to stay." But Michael kept that thought to himself. "So what about you?" Emily asked, gracefully redirecting. She sat down on the couch, tucking her legs under her in a way that made her look smaller, younger. "That phone call earlier. Your girlfriend?" "No." The answer came too quick. "I mean, we were together. We're taking a break. It's complicated. They always are." She smiled, sympathetic. "How long?" 3 years on and off. That's a long time to be on and off." "Yeah." Michael took a drink of water, suddenly uncomfortable being on this side of the questions. "We're just trying to figure out if we work. And she called to tell you she's coming to get her stuff." Emily's voice was soft, understanding. "That doesn't sound like figuring it out. That sounds like done." The observation landed harder than it should have. Because she was right, wasn't she? Keisha's call hadn't been an opening for conversation. It had been a closing statement. Professional, efficient, final. "Maybe," he admitted. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, a car alarm went off, stopped, started again. Someone shouted something in Spanish. Normal LA night sounds. "Can I ask you something?" Emily leaned forward, her elbows on her knees. "Why'd you say yes? To me staying, I mean. You clearly didn't want to." The directness surprised him. "What makes you think I didn't want to?" "Because you tried to say no like 4 times before you finally said yes." Her smile was knowing, almost teasing. "I could see you fighting with yourself through the door." Michael should have felt called out, exposed. Instead, he found himself almost laughing. You're right. I was. So why'd you do it? Honestly, I don't know. He ran a hand over his head, that familiar gesture of frustration. I guess I couldn't be the guy who says no, who turns someone away when they say they need help. Even when you know they might be playing you. The statement hung in the air between them. Michael met her eyes, and for the first time since she'd knocked on his door, they seemed to see each other clearly. No performance, no pretense. Just two people acknowledging the game. Are you, he asked, playing me? Emily held his gaze for a long moment, then smiled, different from all her other smiles. This one had an edge to it. Would I tell you if I was? Probably not. Then I guess you'll have to decide for yourself. She stood up, breaking the moment. But for what it's worth, I really do appreciate you letting me crash here. Whatever you think my motives are. Before Michael could respond, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, and her entire demeanor changed. The relaxed, almost honest version of Emily vanished, replaced by something harder, more guarded. I need to take this, she said, already moving toward the hallway. It's important. She disappeared around the corner, and Michael heard the bathroom door close. Her voice came through muffled, but he could make out the tone. Sharp, argumentative. Not the soft vulnerability she'd been projecting with him. He pulled out his phone, opened Instagram on impulse. Found her profile easily. She'd mentioned her handle earlier, casually, like she wasn't making sure he'd look her up. At EmilyRose_LA. 300,000 followers, just like she'd said. Michael scrolled through her feed. The photos were professionally shot, perfectly edited. Emily in designer clothes. Emily at bougie brunch spots. Emily with inspirational quotes about manifesting your dreams and staying true to yourself. The comments were a mix of heart-eye emojis and spam bots. Her engagement rate seemed high, though Michael didn't know enough about influencer metrics to be sure. What caught his attention was a photo from 6 days ago. Emily with a man, good-looking, well-dressed, the kind of guy who looked like he belonged in a cologne ad. His arm was around her waist, her head on his shoulder. The caption, found my peace. Hashtag blessed, hashtag love wins, hashtag LA living. The boyfriend. Had to be. Michael clicked on the comments. Dozens of people congratulating them, saying they were beautiful together, asking where she got her dress. Not a single hint that anything was wrong. 6 days ago, she posted a loved-up photo. Now she was on his couch claiming she'd been locked out. He heard the bathroom door open, quickly locked his phone. Emily came back looking shaken. The mask had slipped. Her hands were trembling slightly, her jaw tight. Everything okay? Michael asked, against his better judgment. Fine. She didn't look at him, already gathering her bag. Actually, you know what? I need to go. Go. Michael stood, confused by the sudden shift. It's almost midnight. I know, I'm sorry. I have somewhere I can stay. A friend. I should have called her first, but I wasn't thinking straight. The words tumbled out fast, too fast. She was already heading for the door. Thank you so much for being willing to help me. Really, you're a good person. Wait. Michael followed her, trying to make sense of the abrupt departure. Are you sure? It's late, and if you need. I'm sure. She had the door open, was already halfway into the hallway. I really appreciate it, though. Seriously. And then she was gone. Michael stood in his doorway, watching her hurried retreat down the hallway. She didn't look back. At the end of the corridor, she pulled out her phone, already dialing before she disappeared around the corner toward the elevators. He closed his door slowly, locked it, stood in his apartment that suddenly felt too quiet. What the hell had just happened? His phone buzzed. Marcus, how's the situation? Michael typed back. She left. Got a phone call and just left. Told you. Drama. Stay away from that. Good advice. Solid advice. The kind of advice Michael's mother would give, his sister would give, anyone with common sense would give. He looked at the couch, still made up with sheets and pillows for a guest who hadn't stayed. Looked at the closed bathroom door, remembering how she'd locked herself in there for that phone call. Looked at his own phone, at her Instagram profile still open. Emily Rose, 300K followers, no apartment, no credit, no income that made sense. A boyfriend she'd posted with 6 days ago. A story that didn't quite add up. Michael should have felt relieved that she'd left. Should have felt like he'd dodged a bullet. Instead, he felt curious. And that, he knew, was dangerous. He was finishing putting away the sheets when he heard it. A soft knock on his door. Different from earlier. Quieter, more tentative. Michael checked his phone. 12:17 a.m. Through the peephole, he could see her again. Emily, looking uncertain in a way that seemed more genuine than anything else she'd shown him tonight. Against every instinct screaming at him to pretend he was asleep, Michael opened the door. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "I know I just left, and this is insane, but—" She stopped, seeming to struggle with something. "Can I just ask you something? Honest answer." "Okay. Do you think I'm a bad person?" The question caught him completely off guard. "What?" "That phone call. It was my ex. He was saying all this stuff about how I'm manipulative and selfish and only care about myself." Her voice cracked slightly. "And then I came here, and you helped me even though you didn't know me, and I wondered if you could tell. If you could see it too." Michael stood in his doorway at 12:17 a.m., looking at a woman he didn't know, asking him to validate or condemn her character based on an evening of interaction that had felt like a performance from the start. The smart answer was to deflect. The safe answer was to wish her well and close the door. "I think," he said slowly, "that we're all a little selfish sometimes. And I think you're going through something hard, and that makes people act in ways they normally wouldn't." It wasn't really an answer, but Emily seemed to accept it. She nodded, wiped at her eyes. Were those real tears or staged ones? Michael couldn't tell. "Thank you," she said softly, "for being kind when you didn't have to be." "Are you going to be okay?" he asked. "Do you really have somewhere to go?" "Yeah. I'll figure it out. I always do." She smiled, sad and small. "Good night, Michael." "Good night, Emily." He watched her walk away again, and this time she did look back. Just once at the elevator. A little wave, almost shy. The elevator doors closed, and she was gone. Michael went back inside, locked his door, and stood in his living room trying to process the strangest evening he'd had in months. His phone buzzed one more time. Not Marcus this time. An Instagram notification at EmilyRose_LA started following you. He stared at the notification for a long moment, then set his phone face down on the counter. Tomorrow, he'd wake up and this would just be a weird story. The neighbor who knocked on his door, stayed for an hour, left, came back to ask a strange question, then left again. A blip. An anomaly. Nothing more. That's what he told himself as he got ready for bed. That's what he almost believed as he finally fell asleep at 1:30 a.m. But some part of him, the part that had opened the door in the first place, the part that had said yes when he should have said no, knew better. This wasn't over. This was just beginning. 5 days passed before Michael saw Emily again. 5 days during which he'd checked his Instagram more times than he'd care to admit, watching the little green dot appear and disappear next to her profile picture. She was online. She was active. She was posting her usual content: coffee at trendy cafes, sunset shots from Griffith Park, motivational quotes about knowing your worth. She never messaged him, never commented on anything, just followed him, watched his stories, existed in the periphery of his digital life like a question mark he couldn't quite erase. Saturday had come and gone. Keisha had shown up at exactly 2 p.m., spent 45 minutes gathering her things: a toothbrush, a drawer full of clothes, the coffee mug she claimed as hers, the framed photo of them from Catalina Island that Michael had been avoiding looking at for weeks. They'd been painfully polite to each other, painfully adult. She'd asked how he was doing. He'd said fine. He'd asked about her new place. She'd said it was coming together. Neither of them had said what they were really thinking. When she left, the apartment felt emptier than it had before she'd moved any of her stuff in. Like the absence of her things highlighted all the other absences in his life. Marcus had tried to drag him out Sunday night, some house party in Silver Lake, a friend of a friend, the kind of scene Michael used to enjoy before he'd coupled up and aged out of caring about who was spinning where. He declined, spent the evening editing footage from a commercial shoot, ordering Thai food, and definitely not thinking about Emily's question. "Do you think I'm a bad person?" Monday and Tuesday blurred together. Work, gym, home. The routine of someone who'd structured their life around another person and hadn't quite figured out how to restructure it around themselves. By Wednesday morning, when he saw Emily in the lobby, Michael had almost convinced himself that the entire encounter had been a fever dream. Almost. He was checking his mail when he heard her voice. "Oh my God, hey!" Michael turned, and there she was. Different outfit, athleisure today, expensive-looking leggings and a crop top that somehow managed to look both casual and calculated. Her hair was up in a high ponytail, face dewy with the sheen of someone who'd either just worked out or wanted to look like they had. She carried a yoga mat under one arm and a green juice in her other hand. She looked like an Instagram post come to life. "Emily," he said, and it came out more surprised than he'd intended. "Hey, I was hoping I'd run into you." She shifted the yoga mat, took a sip of her juice. "I wanted to thank you again for the other night. I know I was kind of all over the place. It's fine. You seemed like you were dealing with a lot. I was." She laughed, self-deprecating. "I'm better now, though. Got my head on straight." Michael closed his mailbox, just bills and a furniture catalog he hadn't ordered, and tried to read the situation. She seemed lighter today, more settled, like whatever crisis had driven her to his door had resolved itself. "That's good," he said. "So you worked things out with your friend? The one you stayed with?" A flicker of something crossed her face, confusion, maybe, or the split second of someone trying to remember their own lie. But it passed so quickly Michael almost missed it. "Oh yeah, she's been great. Really supportive through all this." Emily shifted her weight, the yoga mat sliding down her arm. "Actually, I was just about to grab breakfast. Have you eaten? We could grab something and catch up properly." "My treat. It's the least I could do." Every alarm that had gone off Thursday night started ringing again. This felt too convenient, too deliberate. The casual run-in, the breakfast invitation, the way she was looking at him like they were old friends catching up instead of near strangers who'd shared one weird evening. "I actually just ate," he lied. He hadn't. His breakfast had been black coffee at 6 a.m. before his morning shoot. "Oh," was that disappointment in her voice. "That's too bad. Maybe another time." "Yeah, maybe." An awkward beat passed. Emily adjusted her ponytail, took another sip of her juice. Michael clutched his mail like it was a shield. "So how have you been?" she asked, clearly not ready to end the conversation. "I saw your girlfriend came by." "Or ex-girlfriend?" "I wasn't trying to be nosy. I just saw you guys in the hallway when I was heading out." Of course she had. "Yeah, she came to get her stuff. We're officially done." "I'm sorry." Emily's voice softened. "That's rough, even when you see it coming. It is what it is." Michael wanted to leave, wanted to escape this conversation before it went anywhere. But his feet weren't moving. "What about you? You and your ex figure things out." "God, no." She laughed, sharp and bitter. "That's done. So done. I'm actually looking for my own place now. Trying to start fresh, you know." "That's good. New beginning." "Exactly." She smiled at him, bright and hopeful. "Actually, funny story. I have an appointment at the leasing office here this morning. I'm thinking about getting a place in the building." Michael's stomach dropped. "Here? In this building?" "Yeah. I mean, I already know the area, and you're here, and you seem cool, so?" She shrugged, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Plus the amenities are great. The gym, the rooftop, the location. It just makes sense." It didn't make sense. Nothing about this made sense. She'd shown up at his door 5 days ago with nowhere to go, no credit, no income situation that added up. Now she was applying for an apartment in the same building? Don't you think that's a little? Michael searched for the right word. "I mean, your ex lives here, right? Isn't that kind of toxic?" Emily finished for him, and there was an edge to her voice now. "Yeah, I've heard that before. But you know what? He doesn't get to dictate where I live. This is a great building in a great location, and I like it here. I'm not going to let him run me out of a place I want to be just because he can't handle seeing me." There was a logic to it, Michael supposed. A defensive, slightly combative logic, but logic nonetheless. And yet, "Which apartment were you looking at?" he asked. 4B, right next to you, actually. Same floor." She said it like it was a happy coincidence, but Michael could see the calculation behind her eyes. assuming my credit checks out this time. They were a little weird about my income last time, but I have a cosigner now, so it should be fine. Right. Michael's mouth felt dry. Well, good luck with that. Thanks. Emily checked her phone, made a face. Shit, I should actually get going. My appointment's in 10 minutes, and I need to shower first. I must look like a mess. She didn't look like a mess. She looked exactly like someone who'd staged a casual run-in and timed it perfectly. You look fine, Michael said automatically. You're sweet. She touched his arm briefly, a gesture that felt too familiar given how little they actually knew each other. Hey, I know we barely know each other, but I feel like we kind of connected the other night, you know? Like, real talk instead of the usual LA surface bullshit. Michael thought about her performing vulnerability in his apartment, about the Instagram photos that contradicted her story, about the way she'd asked if he thought she was a bad person. Yeah, he said, because what else could he say? So maybe we should actually hang out sometime. Like, properly. Not me showing up at your door in crisis mode. She laughed, easy and light. I promise I'm more fun when I'm not having a breakdown. Maybe, Michael said, non-committal. Cool. Well, I'll let you know how the apartment thing goes. Might be seeing a lot more of me around here. She winked, started backing toward the elevator. See you around, neighbor. Yeah, see you. Michael watched her go, watched the elevator doors close on her bright smile and perfectly styled ponytail. Watched until the numbers above the elevator stopped on the 4th floor. His floor. He pulled out his phone, pulled up her Instagram. Her story from 20 minutes ago. A shot of the building's entrance, the morning sun casting dramatic shadows. The caption, New Beginnings. She posted it before she'd run into him. Michael stood in the lobby, his mail forgotten in his hand, trying to process what was happening. The coincidence that didn't feel like a coincidence. The apartment application that came out of nowhere. The way she touched his arm like they were closer than they were. His phone buzzed. Marcus, lunch. Need to talk to you about something. Yeah. 1 p.m. Usual spot. Perfect. And bro, don't take this the wrong way, but I saw you like that girl's post. The one from your building. Michael looked at his Instagram. Sure enough, there it was. A like on Emily's post from 2 days ago, a sunset shot from Griffith Park. He didn't remember liking it. Must have been late night scrolling, mindless double tapping. But Marcus had noticed. And if Marcus had noticed, Emily definitely had. It's not like that, he typed. Never is until it is. Just be careful. Michael pocketed his phone and headed back upstairs. When he passed 4B, he paused. The door was closed, no sound from inside. But there was a chance, a real chance, that Emily would be living behind that door soon. 20 feet from his own apartment, in his daily path. Some people might call that coincidence. Michael knew better. By 1 p.m., Michael had worked himself into a state. He'd spent the morning trying to focus on editing, but his mind kept drifting. To Emily's smile. To her convenient timing. To the apartment application that made no sense given what she told him about her credit and income. To the way she'd said might be seeing a lot more of me around here like it was a promise or a threat. He couldn't decide which. Marcus was already at their usual spot, a taco truck near MacArthur Park that made the best al pastor in the city, when Michael arrived. He'd gotten them both their regular orders, was scrolling through his phone when Michael slid onto the bench across from him. You look stressed, Marcus said by way of greeting. I'm fine. You're not fine. You have that look you get when you're overthinking something. Marcus set down his phone, focused his full attention on Michael. What's going on? Is it Keisha? No. I mean, kind of, but not really. Michael grabbed his taco, realized he wasn't actually hungry. You remember that situation I mentioned? The neighbor. The one who needed a place to crash? Yeah, her. Michael took a bite of taco, just to buy time, to figure out how to explain what was happening without sounding paranoid. I saw her again today. In the lobby. Okay. She's applying for an apartment. In my building. On my floor. Marcus stopped mid-bite. Wait, what? Literally next door to me. For B. And you think that's... I think it's weird, Marcus. I think the whole thing is weird. Michael set down his taco, leaned forward. 5 days ago, she shows up at my door out of nowhere, tells me she got locked out by her ex-boyfriend, asks to stay the night. Then she gets a phone call and leaves. Now suddenly she's applying for an apartment in the same building? Right next to me. Maybe she really does like the building, Marcus offered, but his tone suggested he didn't believe it either. She told me her credit was bad. Her income ratio wasn't good enough for them to approve her application. That's literally what she said when I ran into her today. But now she's applying again. She said she has a co-signer now. Yeah, conveniently. Michael ran a hand over his head. And here's the thing, I looked at her Instagram. She posted about new beginnings at my building before she coincidentally ran into me in the lobby. Marcus was quiet for a moment, processing. A pigeon landed near their table, eyeing Michael's abandoned taco. Okay, that's weird. But what's the play here? Like, what do you think she wants? I don't know. And that was the truth. That's what bothers me. I can't figure out the angle. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe she's just... Marcus trailed off, shrugged. I don't know, man. Maybe she just likes you. We barely know each other. Sometimes that's enough. Marcus took another bite of his taco, chewed thoughtfully. Or maybe she's crazy. Could be that too. Thanks, that's helpful. I'm just saying, you got options here. Option 1, she's into you and being aggressive about it. Option 2, she's running some kind of con. Option 3, she's mentally unstable. Option 4, you're overthinking this, and it really is just coincidence. Michael considered the options. None of them felt quite right. Or maybe all of them felt a little bit right, which was worse. What do I do? He asked. About what? You can't stop her from moving into the building if her application gets approved. I know, but nothing. Marcus pointed his taco at Michael. Here's what you do. You keep your distance. You're polite if you see her in the hallway, but you don't engage beyond that. Don't invite her over. Don't go to her place if she invites you. Don't get pulled into whatever this is. You're right. I know I'm right. And Mike, Marcus's voice got serious. I've known you since college. You've got that thing where you can't say no to people who seem like they need help. Your whole savior complex thing. I don't have a savior complex. You dated Keisha for 3 years while she figured herself out. You loaned Brad $300 sophomore year that you never got back. You're literally that friend everyone calls at 2 a.m. because they know you'll answer. Marcus softened. I love that about you, man. You're a good person. But some people see that and take advantage. And I get a feeling this girl is one of them. The pigeon hopped closer. Michael tossed it a piece of tortilla. So what, I just ignore her? Not ignore. Just boundaries. You're allowed to have those. Boundaries. The thing Michael had never been particularly good at. The thing Keisha had complained about. His inability to say no to his friends when they needed something, even when it meant canceling their plans. The thing his mom worried about, his sister lectured him on. I'll keep my distance, Michael said. Good. Marcus relaxed. Now can we talk about my thing? Because I've been sitting on this all morning, and I'm about to burst. What thing? Jennifer and I are moving in together. Michael's problems suddenly felt very small. Wait, what? When did this happen? Last night. We were talking about how much we're spending on rent between our 2 places, and it just kind of came up, and then suddenly we were looking at apartments on Zillow. Marcus was grinning now, excited. I know it's fast. We've only been together 8 months, but it feels right, you know? That's great, man. Really. And Michael meant it. Marcus and Jennifer were good together, stable in a way that made sense. Where are you looking? Probably Culver City. Close to her work, not too far from mine. We're seeing a place this weekend. They spent the rest of lunch talking about Marcus's moving plans, about Jennifer's furniture versus his furniture, about whether they should get a cat. Normal problems. Happy problems. The kind of problems Michael had thought he'd be having with Keisha before everything fell apart. By the time they parted ways, Michael felt slightly better. Grounded. Marcus was right, boundaries. Distance. Don't get pulled into whatever this was with Emily. He could do that. He made it 3 hours. At 4:17 p.m., his phone buzzed with an Instagram DM. At Emily Rose_LA, hey, so random but I got approved. Party popper signing the lease tomorrow. Officially going to be your neighbor, LOL. Michael stared at the message. At the exclamation points. At the laughing emoji that didn't feel like laughing. He could ignore it. Should ignore it. That was the boundary Marcus had told him to set. But then another message came through. At @EmilyRose_LA. I know we barely know each other, but would you want to help me celebrate? Nothing crazy. Maybe just grab dinner or drinks. I don't really know anyone else in LA yet, and you've been so nice to me. And there it was. The ask. The invitation. The next step in whatever this was. Michael's thumb hovered over the keyboard. He thought about Marcus's warning. About his pattern of saying yes when he should say no. About Emily's Instagram post that morning. About her story that didn't add up. About the way she'd showed up at his door 5 days ago with nowhere to go and now suddenly had an apartment approved. He should say no. He should definitely say no. His thumb moved. Sure. When were you thinking? The typing indicator appeared immediately, like she'd been waiting. At @EmilyRose_LA tonight? 7 p.m. I know this great place in Venice. Very low-key. Sounds good. Send me the address. At @EmilyRose_LA. Perfect. Can't wait. Michael set down his phone and stared at the wall of his apartment. Boundaries, he said out loud to no one. But he was already thinking about what to wear. The restaurant Emily chose was exactly the kind of place Michael would have expected. Beachy chic with Edison bulbs, reclaimed wood tables, and a cocktail menu that used words like artisanal and curated. The kind of place that looked better on Instagram than it tasted in person. Emily was already there when he arrived, sitting at a corner table with a view of the street. She'd changed. Gone was the athleisure from this morning, replaced by a sundress that looked effortless but probably cost more than Michael's camera lens. Her hair was down now, catching the golden hour light streaming through the window. She looked up as he approached, and her smile seemed genuine. Or maybe Michael was just bad at telling the difference anymore. You found it! She stood, and for a moment he thought she might hug him, but she settled for a brief touch on his arm instead. The same gesture from this morning, claiming familiarity they hadn't earned. GPS is a miracle, Michael said, sliding into the seat across from her. A waitress appeared immediately, blonde, perky, the kind of person who probably had their own Instagram following. Can I start you guys with drinks? I'll have the lavender martini, Emily said without looking at the menu. Just water for me, Michael said. And an IPA if you have anything local. When the waitress left, Emily leaned forward, her elbows on the table. You look nice. Michael had changed 3 times before, settling on dark jeans and a button-down, trying to hit that space between I tried and I didn't try too hard. Thanks. So do you. This old thing. She laughed, playing with the strap of her dress. I literally grabbed the first thing I saw. They both knew that was a lie, but Michael let it pass. So, Emily said, raising her water glass. To new beginnings. And to you, for being the first actual friend I've made in LA who isn't trying to use me for followers or clout or whatever. Michael touched his glass to hers, wondering if she heard the irony in her own words. Congratulations on the apartment. That came together fast. I know, right? I honestly didn't think they'd approve me, but my uncle, the one with the auto shop, he co-signed. He's always looking out for me. She took a sip of water. I sign the lease tomorrow, move in this weekend. It's crazy how fast life can change. Your uncle in LA? Michael asked, testing. Yeah, in Inglewood. He's been here forever. Came out from Atlanta like 20 years ago. She said it smoothly, no hesitation. If it was a lie, it was a practiced one. Their drinks arrived. Emily's lavender martini looked like something from a photo shoot. Purple gradient, edible flowers, the whole production. She immediately pulled out her phone. Sorry, I have to, she said, not sounding sorry at all. She angled the drink, the window light, her hand just visible in the frame. Took 3 shots, checked them, took 2 more. Okay, done. I promise I'm not one of those people who photographs everything. But she was. Michael had seen her Instagram. Every meal, every sunset, every carefully curated moment of her life documented and filtered and hashtagged for maximum engagement. So tell me about you, Emily said, setting her phone face down. And don't just give me the surface stuff. I want the real story. What brought you to LA? Why video? What's your actual dream? The questions felt genuine, or at least genuinely curious. And Michael found himself answering honestly about growing up in the Bay Area, about discovering film in high school, about the documentaries he wanted to make about communities that didn't usually get attention, about how commercial work paid the bills, but creative work fed his soul. Emily listened in a way that made him feel heard, asked follow-up questions, shared her own story, growing up in Atlanta, always knowing she wanted more, moving to LA with nothing but a suitcase and a dream. The social media following that had grown organically, the brand deals that let her survive, the constant hustle of being your own business. It was easy, too easy. Michael found himself relaxing, laughing at her stories, sharing his own. The restaurant filled up around them, but they barely noticed. One drink became two. Appetizers became entrees. The sun set outside the window, and someone turned on the string lights. "Can I ask you something?" Emily said during a lull, her second martini mostly gone. "That night I showed up at your door. Did you think I was crazy?" "Honestly, a little bit, yeah." She laughed. "Fair. I kind of was. Or at least, I was in a crazy situation." She paused, seemed to debate something. "The truth is, my ex, he wasn't just my boyfriend. I was dependent on him. Financially, emotionally. I gave up everything to be with him, and when it ended, I had nothing. No apartment, no savings, no plan. Just my Instagram, and the hope that I could figure it out. That must have been scary. Terrifying." Her voice got quieter. "I'm not proud of how I handled it. Showing up at your door, lying about why. I was just desperate. And you were kind when you didn't have to be." Michael felt something shift in his chest. This felt real, more real than anything else she'd shown him. The vulnerability wasn't performed this time. It just was. "We all do things we're not proud of when we're desperate," he said. "Do we?" Emily met his eyes. "Or do some of us just do shitty things and call it desperation to make ourselves feel better?" Before Michael could answer, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her expression changed, hardened. "Is that him?" Michael asked. "Your ex?" "Yeah." She silenced the phone. "He won't stop calling. He's pissed that I'm moving into the building." "How does he know you're moving into the building?" Emily's eyes flicked to his, then away. "I might have mentioned it. I wanted him to know I wasn't running. That he doesn't get to dictate my life." There it was again, that defensive edge, that hint of something less victim and more aggressor. But before Michael could examine it too closely, Emily reached across the table and took his hand. "Thank you," she said. "For tonight. For listening. For not judging me." Her hand was warm in his. Small. The touch felt intimate in a way that made Michael acutely aware they were on what was definitely becoming a date. He should pull his hand back, should remember Marcus's warnings, should recognize the pattern he was falling into. Instead, he squeezed her hand gently. "Anytime." They stayed until the restaurant closed, talking until the waitress started giving them looks. When they finally left, stepping out into the cool Venice night, Emily shivered in her sundress. "I should have brought a jacket," she said. Michael didn't offer his. That felt like a line he wasn't ready to cross. "Want me to call you an Uber?" "Actually," Emily looked up at him, the string lights reflecting in her eyes. "I drove. I could give you a ride back." "I thought your car was at your uncle's shop." Another flicker across her face, quick, almost missed. He finished it. Wasn't actually the transmission after all. Just needed a new part. "Got it back yesterday." The lie was smooth, but it was definitely a lie. Michael had heard her on the phone 5 days ago, talking about major car issues. Nothing got fixed that fast. But calling her out would shatter whatever this evening had been. So he let it slide. "Sure," he said. "Thanks." The drive back was quiet, comfortable. Emily's car was a white Mercedes C-Class, a few years old but well-maintained. The kind of car that suggested money Michael knew she didn't have. Another contradiction to file away and not examine too closely. She pulled up to their building, put the car in park but left it running. "Thanks for tonight," she said. "I had a really good time." "Me too. We should do it again. I mean, we're going to be neighbors now, so—" She smiled. "Might as well be friends, right?" "Right. Friends." Something in Emily's expression shifted, disappointment, maybe, or frustration. But it passed quickly, replaced by her usual brightness. "Well, good night, Michael." "Good night, Emily." He got out of the car, watched her drive toward the parking structure. As he walked into the building, His phone buzzed. "Marcus, how'd it go?" Michael paused in the lobby, trying to figure out how to answer. "Good. Really good, actually. That's what I was afraid of." "What do you mean?" "Nothing. Just be careful." Michael pocketed his phone and took the elevator to the 4th floor. As he passed 4B, he paused. In a few days, Emily would be behind that door. In his daily life. In his space. And he'd just spent 3 hours with her, forgetting why that might be a problem. Saturday morning, Michael woke to the sound of furniture being moved in the hallway. He checked his phone. 8:47 a.m. He'd meant to sleep in, to avoid whatever chaos moving day would bring, but apparently the universe had other plans. Through his door, he could hear voices. Emily's, bright and directing, and at least 2 male voices responding. The scrape of something heavy being dragged across the floor. A thud that shook the wall between their apartments. Michael lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to decide if he should offer to help. Boundaries, Marcus had said. Distance. But they'd had dinner 3 nights ago. They'd talked for hours. She'd held his hand across the table. How was he supposed to pretend they were strangers now? Another thud. Emily's laugh, musical and light. Michael got up, threw on clothes, and opened his door. The hallway was chaos. Boxes stacked against the walls, furniture wrapped in moving blankets. 2 guys in their 20s hauling a couch through the doorway of 4B. And Emily, directing traffic in leggings and an oversized t-shirt, her hair in a messy bun, looking somehow more put together than most people did fully styled. She saw him and her face lit up. "Michael, you're up. Kind of hard to sleep through moving day." He said it with a smile, so it didn't sound like a complaint. "I know, I'm sorry. I tried to tell them to be quiet, but—" She gestured at the 2 guys, who were now maneuvering the couch through the doorway at an angle that definitely wasn't going to work. "They're friends of my uncle's. Free labor, but not exactly professional movers." One of the guys, early 20s, built like he spent serious time in the gym, looked up at the mention of uncle. "You must be Michael. Emily told us about you." "Did she?" Michael wasn't sure how he felt about being a topic of conversation. "All good things," the guy assured him. "I'm Derek. This is my boy Jamal." Jamal, equally built, gave a nod while struggling with his end of the couch. "You need help?" Michael heard himself ask, even as his brain screamed at him to go back inside. "Would you?" Emily's gratitude seemed genuine. These 2 are great, but they're not exactly spatial reasoning experts. And that's how Michael spent his Saturday morning helping Emily move in. The work was mindless but physically demanding. Boxes, furniture, more boxes. Emily had a surprising amount of stuff for someone who'd claimed to have nothing. Designer clothes still in garment bags, expensive-looking art that needed careful handling, electronics that probably cost more than Michael's monthly rent. "Where'd all this come from?" he asked during a water break, gesturing at a box labeled Chanel. "Storage," Emily said quickly. "I told you. I moved most of my stuff out when I saw things going south with my ex. Been in a storage unit for weeks. But that didn't track either. Storage units cost money. So did keeping a Mercedes, buying designer clothes, maintaining an Instagram aesthetic that screamed luxury. None of it added up to someone who'd been denied an apartment for bad credit. By noon, they'd gotten most of the furniture in. Derek and Jamal headed out, promising to come back for the remaining boxes later. Emily ordered pizza, fancy pizza from that place in Los Feliz that charged $25 for margarita, and they sat on her new couch eating straight from the box. "I can't believe I actually live here," Emily said, looking around at the space. It was the same layout as Michael's apartment. 1 bedroom, 1 bath, small galley kitchen, but somehow it already felt different. More curated, more intentional, even with boxes still stacked against the walls. "How does it feel?" "Scary. Exciting. Like I'm actually starting over, you know." She turned to him. "Thank you for helping. You didn't have to do that." "Neighbors help neighbors," Michael said, even though he knew it was more than that. Emily smiled, took another slice of pizza. "So I was thinking, since you helped me move and everything, I should return the favor. Cook you dinner or something. Tomorrow night." "You cook. I can follow a recipe." She laughed. "Come on, it'll be fun. My first meal in the new place. You can be my inaugural guest." Captivated by Michael and Emily's story, You've only scratched the surface. The complete novel reveals all the shocking twists, manipulations, and that jaw-dropping ending you won't see coming. Get Locked Out for just $2.99 on Amazon KDP, link in the description below. Look out for the Part 2 video. Your purchase doesn't just give you the full story, it supports independent authors pursuing their passion. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. I've got more addictive, thrilling stories coming your way. See you in the next one.